2020 has been a wild year, but you guys knew that already. One of the positives though, it delivered some amazing value for money scopes. Seriously, this year has changed the landscape for scopes used for long range shooting under $2,000. In January, the Burris RT-25 was announced as shot. 5-25 by 56, first focal plane, SCR2 mil reticle, and a zero stop under $1,600. Then, on the verge of Easter, Vortex announced the updated Strike Eagle. 5-25 by 56 again, first focal plane, EBR-7C reticle, available in MOA and MRAD, with a zero stop option, with illumination, and they did it all for under $1,200. So a few weeks later, these arrived. Shortly afterwards, these arrived, and we had options. So, how do they stack up? Well, first up, it's what they do the same. Both 5-25 by 56, both first focal plane. In the MRAD versions, they both have a 0.1 MRAD adjustment on the turrets and Christmas tree style reticles with 0.2 on windage hole. They both come with a magnification throw lever, both made in China, both have some variation of a zero stop, and both have locking turrets. And this is where the differences start to set in. Parallax. These come down to 14 meters, these comes down to 23 meters. Weight. 862 grams, 703 grams. Illumination on this reticle. No illumination on this reticle. 34mm tube, 30mm tube. What that means is this one has more travel. For the Strike Eagle, we have 31 MRAD of vertical adjustment and 23 MRAD of horizontal adjustment. For the Burris, it's 18.9 MRAD of vertical and horizontal adjustment. The turrets on the Burris give you 8 MRAD per rotation, and the Strike Eagle gives you 10 MRAD per rotation. Turrets on the Strike Eagle both the same in terms of dimensions and size. The turrets on the Burris, full size turret on the elevation, and a short low profile turret on the windage if you're into that sort of thing. So as for turrets, they can be a very personal preference in terms of how the turret feels. Here's my take. The Strike Eagle turrets click fairly well, but they've got a little bit of mush to them as you push around. The Burris turrets have a much more dominant click, but there is a little bit of I don't know what the technical term for this is, but it shimmies back and forth a little bit. It's a definite click and you know you're onto the next one, but there is this sort of rocking movement between the two. Having said that, if I was choosing one with no other factors involved, I think the Burris would have it, but by this much. As I mentioned before, the Strike Eagle has more elevation in it, by a reasonable amount. That's thanks to the size of the tube. However, the zero stop system on this is done by dropping a block in here and limiting the movement so it can't go lower, but also puts a cap on the top end. Now depending on how you set your scope up in terms of canting it, it'll only give you a maximum of 18 MRAD of adjustment once that blocker goes in there. If, and only if you were to set up this Burris correctly, you could still get about 18 MRAD of adjustment out of this, because there is, once you put the zero stop on this, it doesn't limit the elevation, it'll travel all the way through. There are downsides to that because you are basing this right at the bottom of the travel. Not best practice, but it is possible. That is one consideration between these two on the zero stop. However, you can run the Strike Eagle without the zero stop, give it plenty of cant so you can't rotate lower than one rotation, and you would effectively achieve the same goal while also having more elevation at the top. So Burris, what gives? Is there any redeeming features? Because on paper, this is not spec'd out as much as the Strike Eagle, yet it's more expensive. Word on these two is that tracking is pretty solid across both, especially given the price range. There's no standout difference in tracking between the two, so it's got to be optics. Now I can tell you which one of these scopes I prefer optically, and I will. But that's one man's opinion. We took these both down to the range, put them in front of a number of shooters and got their opinion on them. Here's what they said.
I've got the scopes set on the same power, I've got the parallax set the same, so I'm looking at it 200, and I really think whatever this is here, so the Burris, It definitely is not as creamy, and it's definitely more clear than the Strike Eagle.
Right.
This one's got the colours and the contrast aren't as high coming through it.
Had a bit of time with the Burris and Strike Eagle. What's your thoughts, mate?
Vortex is pretty nice as far as click value and reticle and stuff goes.
Yep.
I think glass quality, Burris has it slightly better.
Anything particular that you noticed?
Just that 200 on max zoom, I thought that was a little bit clearer.
Okay.
Like glass quality, just looked a little bit of discoloration at max. But I'm both on 18, pretty much flawless. On 18 power, I'd choose this just purely for the click.
Yep.
Positive click, so it's really nice.
The 75,
It's not bad. Pretty crisp picture at 200 metres.
the 75, actually 0.9.
The clicks are pretty good. My first impression is the Strike Eagle at 200 metres has got a far crisper picture. The reticle on the Strike Eagle is a lot thicker at maximum power. I'd almost say the Burris at minimum power at 5 power is probably not usable for holdovers for elevation, or bordering on not usable, whereas the Strike Eagle is quite usable. Nice crisp picture at 50 metres. The reticle I'm not a fan of, to be honest. I do a lot of shooting at sort of 10 to 15, 12 to 15 power, and I'm having a little bit of, not trouble, but you have to look pretty hard to use the holdovers. For me, I think the Strike Eagle's got a nicer reticle and probably a slightly crisper picture.
I like the reticle in the Burris.
The reticle's really fine in the Burris, which is good for close stuff. I reckon the Vortex seems a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
Slightly clearer, but the reticle in the Burris is really nice.
I think, better colour.
Better colour.
Like crisper image, I reckon.
Yeah.
But the reticle's good in that, yeah. I like the fine reticle, whereas sometimes that in the middle it got a bit crowded. Because there's quite a lot going on in the middle and it kind of tapers out.
Okay.
Yeah, both good.
Very interesting.
I'm very fussy on reticles.
Good.
I think that one, because I also use my guns for hunting, this one I can use on minimum power.
Yep.
That one I can hardly see at minimum power.
Yes.
Nice reticle
Yep.
and fine for target shooting, but this one's nicer. I can get them both nice and clear at 50 metres and see bullet holes.
Okay.
And that's all the resolution that I need.
Okay.
First impressions would be that the Burris seems to be brighter.
Brighter?
Yeah, initially. But yeah, the other one was probably frostier, I would have thought.
So here's my take on that. The Burris, I believe, definitely has better optics. It is a crisper image, a sharper image, but the parallax is far less forgiving than the Strike Eagle. If you cycle through and adjust your parallax regularly, you'll be rewarded with a better result through the Burris. If you are lazy and not doing that on a regular basis, you'll notice it more on the Burris. This will be much more forgiving in that regard. And reticle very much comes down to personal preference. I prefer the SCR2 reticle. I do. This was one of my favourite reticles until this came out, and this has fast become one of my favourites. So it's up to you to choose which one of these you want if it's something you're looking for. Both really good options, both do things well. They have a few different variations in what they do and how they achieve it. It's up to you. There's probably something that we've mentioned that you're like, oh, I really like that, or I really like that. And these scopes are pretty similar in that regard. What I can say is that 2020 has been an impressive year for budget, long-range optics. Oh, and then these came out. Oh, I can't bend my arm quite like that.